Well, hello, everyone. It's time for Share in the Chair. I'm Darrell Watkins, the Senior Minister of the Sunshine Cathedral in Fort Lauderdale. And Share in the Chair, we do this every Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern, where I get to just chat with a spiritual leader, different tradition every time, every week, different perspective, different voice. And we have a very special guest tonight, Reverend Houston Cypress, Houston like the city, Cypress like the tree. And he's going to tell us all kinds of things. He knows things that I don't even know how to ask about. So this is maybe going to be the most interesting conversation we've ever had, because it's not just me trying to get you to know what I know. I'm learning it all too. So I'm so excited about tonight. So thank you, Houston, for doing this with us.
Thanks, Darrell. It's an honor to be here with you and share some space with you here online and just to get to know each other a little bit better. So thanks for inviting me.
Excellent. Houston Cypress is actually one of the co-hosts of Gay Town Hall on Thursday night. So you can see him again tomorrow and in the weeks to come. Well, so Houston, I have a lot of questions. I want to know so many things. First of all, just introduce us to your life. I only recently knew about the the
Miccosukee.
There's actually two ways to spell it, and one way helps me say it better than the other way, but that's not the way from the website. The Miccosukee Nation, I've only known about recently. In fact, I knew about the Seminole, and I understand there's some shared history, but it's all new to me. So there's that. So please tell us just something about your culture and your lives, and then we can go from there.
Cool, thanks, Darrell. Well, again, my name's Houston Cypress, but I have a Miccosukee name. And in our tradition, we grow through many names in our lives. So when I was born in the community, I had a baby name, which was very private, and then I had a public name. And then as I went through the rites of passage from boy to manhood, I assumed a ceremonial name. The ceremonial names are passed around in the community from our ancestors to the next generation. And so the ceremonial name that I was given is Yahalike. And then as we, as men and women grow and acquire new accomplishments and new stages in their lives, they typically get new names. So that's the name I'm currently using in the Miccosukee community, Yahalike. And the family that I'm a part of is the Otter Clan. But really, if you know anything about the Otter Clan, you will know that we are the Hotter Clan. Hey. So the clans and all that is coming from the mother's side. So whatever family your mom is from, that's the family you're born into. And my dad's family, he's the Bird Clan, the Bird family. So that clan system, the family system that we grow up with, that we're given, is something that was given to us at the beginning of time when the world was created by the breath maker. And it really helps us out to know how we can best be of service in our community. And the kind of services that we fulfill are especially highlighted when it comes to ceremonial times. So there's special times of the year when we get together and have a good time for prayer, for cleansing, for rebirth and renewal. And those are the times when our duties are really coming to the forefront. And so I have some special duties as an Otter Clan that I can do. I have special choreography and special dances that I'm privileged to do. And so the clan system is something that's really vibrant and inspiring in terms of our Miccosukee community. And that's just one way that we can begin to understand the Miccosukee people and the Seminole people too.
Oh, wow. Now on the Thursday show, you call, I guess, the North American continent, you call it Turtle Island. Why is that?
That's right. So it's a way of honoring the creation stories that were given and that were taught about how the world and the universe came to be. And so there's a story that talks about how there was quite a bit of water, a watery expanse when the earth was new. And so to create the ground, certain animals had to dive deep into the oceans and bring the mud from the ocean bottoms and bring it up to the surface. And where they put that mud was on the back of a turtle. And so as the land grew, a bunch of really amazing, adventurous things happened that really gave form to the animals and the plants that we have today. But that initial landmass was the little piece of mud that was plopped on the back of a turtle shell, and which eventually grew to the continent that we're living on today. And so there's a lot of other story. There's a lot of other aspects to that story, a lot of other aspects to the way that creation happened. But that's why we refer to the land that we live on as Turtle Island.
Turtle Island.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I mean, sometimes words are sort of mysterious. They don't really mean. But does Miccosukee have a meaning? Does it translate to something?
Yeah, and it's an adopted term. Like there's other terms that we call ourselves. It's more of like a political term almost. And so basically it means pig farmers. So we raise pigs as a part of our cultural practices, and that's what other people were calling us because of the animals that we kept. But what we really call ourselves is referring to the language that we speak. Those that speak our language are Ilapunate, Ilapunate. And then the word for human or the person is Yate, the person, a human being. But referring back to like how we understand that the world was created as Miccosukee and Seminole people, like I like to talk about how, like I come from a universe where the word for earth rhymes with the word for flesh. And I know that in the Christian tradition, you can probably kind of understand how the breath maker breathed life into the form that was created out of the mud, out of the soil, out of the clay. And so Yagnit and Agnit is the earth and the flesh. So you can see how that rhymes. And our very existence is an echo of that. Like the body that we're in is an echo of the earth that we stand on.
That must be a universal sort of archetype, because the mythological first human in the Hebrew story, Adam or Adam, that is similar to Adama, which is the word for earth or soil or mud or clay. And so Adam is actually the earth being. We all are Adam. And then Ruach, the spirit, the breath, is what breathes life into Adam. So yeah, that's a sort of a universal story. I guess the names and conditions changed a little bit, but that's the story.
As I learn and grow and get to understand a little bit more of other people's practices and traditions and faiths, like I see quite a few similarities in our creation and in the kinds of duties that we're given and the kind of laws that were bestowed upon us as Miccosukee people. But there's a lot of similarities there.
Are there stories sort of passed down or passed around about colonization? Because I imagine here there's an experience with the Spanish, and then later experiences with the U.S. government, and so like there has to be sort of waves of colonizing, and then if you want to add missionary endeavors too, I mean there's just sort of waves of colonizing experiences. Is that sort of fresh, like in the communal memory? Is that something you sort of grow up hearing about these stories?
Well, I think in the long view of things, there's definitely a tradition of prophecy that we have. And so that tells us about the kinds of earth changes that we have endured and that we will endure again, and the kind of cycles that the earth grows through itself. And so part of the prophetic tradition reminded us that we were going to see those kind of changes brought about by colonization. And there's also earth changes that are going to be coming ahead of us too. But there are signs and things that we look for to kind of prepare or anticipate for these things. But I think that that prophetic tradition itself is also a reminder just to kind of keep our connection strong with our spiritual practices, with the earth, with the spiritual laws that we were given, and with the Creator himself. So I think that sometimes people worry about doom and gloom situations, but I think it's just a way to remind us to hold on to the things that are important, to celebrate, and to continue that tradition of joy, which our ceremonies are about.
I want to ask you a question that I did not prepare you for. So if it's, I mean, you can just say, nah, I don't care. But I remember in college, the chair of our sociology department was Osage. And I mean, I think his father was very involved in Haskell Indian College in South Dakota, and he grew up on the reservation. and we just thought he was fascinating. And he would talk about some community. I don't think it was Osage. I think it was another one, but that their spirituality, their view of the human body and of healing was all very spiritual. They thought that physical conditions were caused by sort of energetic and spiritual things and mental things. And yet the opportunity for this community to thrive was nursing. A lot of people became nurses. There was a community college, they could go to nursing school, they could make a living, and how they sort of navigated this conflict of they believed they had this one concept of health and wholeness, but they had to sort of make a living in another way of thinking because that was the opportunity, and how they navigated sort of two worlds at the same time. Is there anything similar in your community?
You know, I think that's why I'm kind of embracing and open to multi-faith and interfaith practices, because of those beliefs. We definitely have healing traditions that is based on our understanding of creation and our clan system. What I mean is that certain clans can make medicine for other clans, and so we heal each other that way. And so it's a system that is set up that way. But if there are ailments or things that our system cannot heal, then we make referrals to other systems. So it kind of is open to that interfaith expression. And so like, I know that some of my extended family have been referred to be healed by African traditions. And then like, today we're definitely embracing the kind of things that technologies and medicines that modern science provides us as well. So we definitely find a balance between traditional, other systems, and our own ways as well, that's based on plant medicines, songs, colors, and the spiritual philosophy of the circle of life.
How it just must, I mean, it hurts all of us. We were all heartbroken, but I wonder if you have a special sort of investment or connection to it. The Navajo elders in New Mexico, COVID hit so hard. And I don't know if that's because of their proximity, you know, just so close to each other. I don't know why. But the Navajo elders, people, seniors, were hit so hard. And you think, well, this is a community that's been decimated time and again already. Like, they don't need one more wave of heartache or whatever. What were you sort of keeping up? Do you keep up with other communities like that? Is it are you?
Yeah,
is it enough to sort of try to keep your story going and okay, or are you connected to other communities also?
No, I mean, we definitely have relationships with a lot of indigenous communities in the southeastern part of the United States. And so those relationships have been established for many hundreds or even thousands of years. But on a formal basis, because of colonization and the United States that we have today, we've also set up intertribal organizations. So back in like the 60s, the Miccosukee tribe, the Seminoles, the Choctaws, and the Cherokees got together to organize the United South and Eastern Tribes, which was a formal corporation to lobby on behalf of the benefits of all of these different communities. So since then, that organization grew from like 4 tribes to like 27 tribes, I think, today. So long story short, we look out for each other, we help each other out, we give each other advice, but we also respect our need for our sovereignty too. So like, if there's things that we got to do on our own, we respect that. But if we can help each other out, we definitely do. Like if there's natural disasters or hurricanes that come in, I know that we send each other support. So in situations like this, we're definitely looking for ways to help each other out, but also respect the fact that we got to do things in our own way in our own communities too.
How do you? I have a friend who teaches Choctaw language in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So I guess you just take classes from him individually or whatever. That's what he does. How do you learn I'm going to say Miccosukee language. I know there's a word for it, but how do you learn it in your family? Do you take classes? How do you learn that?
Well, I like to tell people that I still kind of remember the kind of songs that my mom used to sing to me when I was a baby. So I guess the first way you learn is with your mom when she's singing to you, when she's putting you to bed. And that's the first language that I learned when I was growing up out in the Everglades. And then watching TV, going to school, I learned English and got really good at it because of the books I was reading. And now I'm getting into Spanish and other languages too, but it's the first language we learn. It's not a written language until like the 70s. So we're writing it down these days, but it's still something that's kind of new in terms of writing it down.
Oh, wow.
But we really encourage everybody to speak the language because it connects us not only to our family, but to the natural world, the plants and the animals, the things that are seen and unseen as well.
So please settle something for us, because there's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding about what two-spirit means.
Okay.
In this queer community, we ought to know.
Yeah.
So please make sure we know what is exactly two-spirit.
Okay, so in the broad sense, it's a decolonial movement. And decolonization, one of the ways that I can understand decolonization is trying your best to stay connected to your cultural roots and having that inspire you to determine your future as a community. So Two-Spirit is about gender diversity. And it's a movement that started in the 1990s because Western society was referring to the gender diverse people of the indigenous people in ways that were disrespectful. They were using words like birdash. And so to replace that outdated terminology, they got together in a sacred gathering known as a powwow. And these different tribes got together and shared their ideas of gender diversity. And they came up with this concept from a certain community. I believe it was the Cree speaking language that had the word Two-Spirit that they brought to the meeting, and they felt it was a good way of honoring the masculine and the feminine that we all embody. And so it is more about gender rather than it is about sexual orientation, because it's our role in the community. The people that are referred to as Two-Spirit today definitely had ways of helping their community out, whether it was ceremonial, whether it was social, whether it was helping out with settling disputes, whether it was taking care of people that were passing on into the next world. So they all had roles within their community. And so we look at gender as a role in the community, the role that you fulfill. And Two-Spirit as a movement is really about keeping those traditional ideas of our gender roles alive. And so there's definitely overlap with LGBTQ, definitely overlap there. But really, it's about our sense of duty and our sense of commitment to our traditional ideals and how we're expressing that today. So it's more about gender rather than it is about sexuality.
Excellent. And I'm sure this is always a problem. Do you ever have noticed sort of people appropriating that, using that in ways that aren't culturally or historically appropriate?
Thank you for bringing that up, because we got to let everybody know it is definitely a word that belongs to the indigenous people, because we're trying to bring these traditions back. They were hidden or they were lost because of colonization. So it's about people, it's for indigenous people. So it would be inappropriate for non-indigenous people to call themselves Two-Spirit unless they have that background and that history that they're trying to honor. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's definitely something that belongs to us.
Now, speaking of that, like sometimes people will convert. They'll become Jewish or Catholic or Muslim. They'll find a new life, really. Yeah. Sometimes even a new name comes with it. You can't convert to an ethnicity. You can't convert to. But a lot of people, they do DNA testing now and they find out, oh, I do have some connection to something. If someone wants to embrace a culture they didn't even know about, but now they've discovered it's part, what is like the appropriate way to even start exploring that?
You know, this reminds me of my grandfathers from the Wind Clan. And it reminds me of these two Wind Clan sisters who fell in love with these two brothers from the Mohawk tribe. And in our tradition, the men move in with the women. So the Mohawk brothers came and moved into the Miccosukee territory. But they wanted to be respectful and they wanted to be good husbands. And so they felt like they should study with the medicine men down here. And typically the medicine man and our elders don't usually teach our traditions to outsiders, but they felt like it was a good thing to do because these guys want to be good husbands to these women, these Miccosukee women. And so he taught them our ways. So I think that's something that indigenous people can do. But I think it only goes up to a certain limit, because once again, we have our clan system, our family system, and the kind of duties and roles and responsibilities that is embedded in that. So they definitely came down, studied with our medicine men, learned our songs, learned our medicinal healing techniques, and have become part of our communities. But they still honor where they come from and their traditions as well. But that's like the men and the women. And here I am, a fabulous gay and two-spirit Miccosukee man. And so sometimes I wonder how that will work out if I'm going to bring my man into the community. And so I'm looking at like some of my family who are two women living together. They're both indigenous. One is from Cherokee and one is from Miccosukee. But I think that I'm not sure if the one that's coming from the other community is like doing her best to. I mean, I know that she's doing her best to be a part of the community, but I'm not sure if like she's studied so much like these two men did. But yeah, those are some challenges that I think I'm going to be exploring soon one day.
Right. Nice. Good. Congratulations. But no, I mean, negotiating space and relationships, and I mean, it's always complex.
Yeah.
And then certainly more complex when there's more traditions and involved. So yeah, I definitely was wondering about that. Now you've mentioned like creation myths and sacred ceremonies, and so deeply spiritual things. And I was talking to you earlier about most of the indigenous people I know are they sort of bring their culture to some other religious experience. So like I know Episcopalians, I know Methodists, and they sort of indigenize it, but it's still the missionary religion of 4 or 5 generations ago that they've embraced or inherited. And so how do you navigate all that? Is your spiritual path completely sort of historic, indigenous, or is it a blend of other things? How do you navigate this, especially now that the world is getting smaller and smaller and we all know each other now? Like how do you do that?
I think I've decided to expand my practice into other realms because of the challenges I experienced growing up as a gay man. And in our society, the Miccosukee world, it's very binary, and we have definite roles and responsibilities for the men and definite roles and responsibilities for the women. And there's definitely opportunities where the two societies collaborate, but it's very distinct what we have the privilege to celebrate and honor and hold on to as men and women. So as a gay man, I realized that was a challenge for me. Like, how am I gonna find my happiness in this world that has a very clear understanding of what men are and are able to do? So that's why I was kind of compelled to explore other practices and other traditions and other faiths, and that's why I grew into embracing a universalist tradition, a universalist pathway. But definitely, I honor where I come from. I'm definitely a part of the ceremonies when I can be. I definitely try my best to honor the laws and teachings that we were given, the duties and responsibilities that we have to the world, to our family, and remembering the beautiful gifts that the Creator gave us as a part of creation and doing my best to sustain all that. But saying that, the kind of traditions that I grew into, like I basically understood my experience of the Miccosukee universe as a world of various ways and expressions of respect, respecting our family, respecting the world, respecting the natural world. And so I have rituals as a member of the Otter clan, which are very specific to me, just like other clans do. And so I was taught that I have to respect their traditions and how they do things. And I just extended that into a universalist embrace. So these days, I definitely partake in the Miccosukee universe, but I also find community in the universalist space, in the LGBTQ world, amongst artists, and all kinds of cool, interesting, fabulous people.
You've called tonight, you've called, I guess, ultimate reality, first cause, our source. You've called that creator, and you've called that breath maker. What are other words? Are those the two primary words, or do you use other words for what some people call God?
Yeah, that's the primary words.
Breath maker and creator.
Yeah, more traditionally, I understand it from the Mikosuke ways as breath maker.
Breath maker.
Yeah, yeah. And the way that we say that is Fishakige Omeche. That's the maker of breath.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And breath is life. Breath is spirit and energy and power. And so yeah, I love that. I love that so much. The You're an artist, right? You're an artist,
Yeah.
film and art. And what is your connection between art and the sacred? I mean, it seems obvious to me what, but some people think everything's compartmentalized. What is the connection for you with art and spirituality?
I think what people in Western societies or other societies call art, they've been able to analyze it and break it down and appreciate all the different aspects of it. But I come from a world where all that's pretty integrated. And from my Mikosuke world, I understand arts as medicine. So what people would call choreography, we would call dances. So all the things that we use, the colors, the songs, the movements, the storytelling, the spoken word, those are the kinds of things that we definitely employ when we're trying to bring ourselves back into balance, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So my beginnings of being an artist was using these techniques for healing and for balance. And also to be a little bit fabulous too, because I grew up with my mom as a fashion designer. And
Mm.
so aside from the healing aspects of these things, I grew up seeing my mom create new images and new styles and inspire people to stay connected to their roots, because the kinds of fashion that she created, a lot of it was ceremonial. So these are the kinds of things that people dress up in for a New Year's ceremony or for rites of passage. And so it was a sense of pride as well. So the healing, the identity, the cultural aspect, and the sense of communication too, because I also grew up hearing about the kind of challenges that my ancestors endured for us to be here today in this time. And so it kind of reminds me that, again, that sense of duty that I have to my family, to the people that I love.
Your worldview and your life experience seems to be very holistic. You just sort of flow seamlessly, and you're talking about sexuality and gender and culture and history and art and spirituality and nature and customs, and like just one sort of flows effortlessly and seamlessly into the next. And how do you think that sexuality and gender and spirituality are all connected? If they're even separate at all, how do they connect? How are they similar, the same?
Well, these days I think about it as a beautiful gift, as a celebration. In terms of sexuality, I think it's a beautiful gift. It's a celebration of life, a celebration of union, of relationship building. And I think of gender these days. I try to have two ways of understanding these things, because that's also why I use two different pronouns these days too. I use the he pronoun when I'm in my community, and I use the they pronoun when I'm outside in the rest of the world. And so I kind of have to respect the sovereignty of both of these realms. So I try my best to balance both of these understandings and these practices, because when I'm back home in the Everglades as my community, I definitely want to do things appropriately and respectfully, but also create spaces for the up and coming queer youth that are identifying that way these days too. So I'm trying my best to balance different understandings. So sexuality, gender, and what was the other topic that you're asking?
Sexuality, gender, and spirituality.
And spirituality.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think overall these are all rites of passages that we're growing through, and it's a trajectory to life, a trajectory to the circle of life. So we're always going in a certain pathway. We're always growing through things, and we're always learning as well. And I think those are some of the values that I've picked up from my elders and my community to always have a sense of learning. Because when the learning is done, our life is done with, our life is over, and we're going to be moving on into the next realm. So it's always about doing what we can to better ourselves in service of our community. And I think that's what has inspired me to be an activist, to be an advocate for all kinds of issues, the environment, LGBTQ, interfaith and multi-faith, that sense of trajectory and that sense of duty. And so thank you for asking.
We have we all have a thing, or maybe a lot. Some people have a lot of rules, a long list of do's and don'ts. I can't be bothered. Like the golden rule is what I like. If I can just get that right 3/4 of the time, I think I'm doing pretty good. But what is your primary ethic? What is the thing for you, like, that you just feel compelled? We ought to do this. We ought to behave this way. We ought to treat people this way. What is your primary ethic?
You know, for me, my primary ethic is to be of service. And I've learned that because of the kind of ceremonial structure that I was growing up in the Miccosukee world. Like, how can we help each other out? How can we help to learn that dance? How can we help to learn that healing song? How can we help to pass this story along? And there's definitely people that are trained to do these things formally, like medicine men and medicine women. But for example, certain healing songs, certain healing rituals and ceremonies could be very elaborate and could be songs that last about 4 hours or more, with a lot of stanzas, with a lot of words and terminology. Sometimes they forget. That's why the community is the communal knowledge that backs it up. So if the medicine man or the medicine woman is conducting a ceremony, he'll ask for support. Like, look, make sure I'm doing this right. Help me out, step in. If I get a certain things wrong, help me out. So this is a sense of service that I grew up with. And I think for me, that's the ethic that I try to uphold in my life. And aside from that, again, to always learn. That's something that I value too. And joy as well, because that's what these ceremonies are about. Even though we're in difficult situations politically, as a community, as a nation, as a world, ecologically, like, we're always striving to create the conditions for joy. So service, joy, and what was the other one? Learning.
Learning, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, God knows we need more joy, and you do always seem to exude joy and centeredness. That's very appealing about you. The all these questions tailor-made for you. I always try to just learn about the person and learn about them, get in their mind and whatever. It's always specific. But the last question of the show each week is the same question. Everyone gets the same last question, and it's super timely right now, because Saturday is Halloween, Sunday is All Saints Day, and Monday is All Souls Day. And they all kind of were about the same thing, about, you know, the ancestors, the departed or whatever.
Yeah.
So so as we are approaching these holy days of the departed, let me just ask you, what happens when we die?
Cool. So I have a couple of ways of looking at that. From my traditional teachings of Miccosukee world, we leave the body, and then we cross the pathway that is illuminated by the Milky Way, and then we are greeted by ancestors at the endless happiness, which is the next world. And so in my Miccosukee upbringing, we look forward to being reunited with those that have gone on before us in this place that can be referred to as an endless happiness. And in my own experiences as well, like in the 40 years I've been on this planet, I've also had the unique blessing of being able to experience like certain spiritual things, like having communications with those that have passed on, with the facilitation of seers and others that are gifted in that way. I mean, I haven't had those experiences directly, but through seers and through friends that do. And so I've also been able to continue to keep those relationships as well. So I look forward to a really vibrant next world where other sorts of joys await.
Excellent. Wow, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So this is Reverend Houston Cypress of
Yeah.
the Miccosukee people and the Otter clan. And I have to confess, when I saw, like, you've got this website and these things, Otter, 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 I assumed it was something else.
Hey. But let me ask you, because you have some experience in these things too, and I always like to check in with folks of their understanding of interfaith and multi-faith.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask you, like, how do you understand, how do you practice, or how do you honor these sorts of modalities? What is that for? How do you understand interfaith and multi-faith?
Well, we are intentionally pluralistic at the Sunshine Cathedral. We're looking, like I said, my ethic is the golden rule. You know, treat people the way you'd like to be treated. I just talked about on Sunday that that love is the law. love is law. Everything you think are rules, these are just explorations of how to fulfill the one rule, which is love.
Yeah.
And so, and I just think that that is such a broad topic. It impacts every human. And so I want to hear from it from as many sources as possible. So I love the Baha'i faith. I love Buddhism. In fact, I took Buddhist coursework in seminary, practices in meditation as part of my own spiritual path, still do. And so, yeah, I love Sufi poetry. There are so many paths that I don't even know much about yet. I'm embarrassed about how ignorant I am of the Quran. I've read a little bit, but not too much. I've got to fix that. But truth is truth. Nobody's got the patent on it. And so whenever I hear something beautiful and loving and it rings true for me, I just embrace that. And so, yeah, the tradition I started out with is Christian. I went to Episcopal and Presbyterian seminaries, but that was just how I got started. The world of faith is so much larger than that, and I want to learn from anyone who's got something to teach. So, so Jesus is a primary faith symbol for me, but I'm not limiting my my experience or what I can learn to any one tradition or organization or scripture. I want to get all the good I can from all the places I can.
I hear you. That's right.
And that's how we form our community at the Sunshine Cathedral. And so that's very encouraging and empowering for some people. For other people, that's not what they're looking for. And so we bless them. You know, we want everyone to find what they're looking for. But if you're looking for a progressive, decidedly queer and religiously pluralistic environment, we just might be the one for you. So anyway, thanks for asking. I don't think anyone's ever asked me a question in the
Yeah, I wanted to let you and your friends know that I mean, part of the duties that we're given in terms of our instructions from the Creator include care for the natural world. And
yes.
So that's kind of what inspired my environmental advocacy. So I want to invite you and your friends to join me in the Everglades sometime. And a really good time. There's a lot of fun things you could do out there during the day. The airboat rides, the hiking on trails, visiting the national park, but there's some amazing things that you can experience at night as well. So I want to let you and your friends know that you're welcome to join me at my meteor shower viewing parties. There's, I think, the Leonids in November, the Geminids in December. There's like 2 meteor showers in December. So just think of it as mid-November and mid-December. You're welcome to come visit me in the Big Cypress National Preserve, and let's go check out the meteor shower together. You're welcome to come join me.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much. That would be great. There is we need to wrap up, but is there anything else that you would like people to know that I didn't think to ask, but we should probably know? Is there anything else you just want to share with us?
No, I think that's it. I think we've had a really good time talking about things. Just remember that the universe is in motion. That's what the circle of life is all about. So I think it's a wonderful dance that we're a part of. And remember to have a good time.
Thank you, Houston, so much. I have loved, I promise, every minute of this. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
and thank you, everyone, for watching.
Catch you again.